It is the winter of 1777. The cause of American liberty seems all but lost. The British, sleek and well-fed, have danced their way into Philadelphia, the rebels' own capital. They spend their evenings by roaring fires, toasting the king with claret, while the man who dares to defy them, General George Washington, leads an army of scarecrows into the wilderness. They are not retreating, you understand. They are marching towards their reckoning. Their destination is a place called Valley Forge. It is a name that would become etched into the soul of a nation, but for now, it is just a name on a map, a low, wooded plateau where the Schuylkill River makes a bend. Washington chose it for its strategic logic, close enough to watch the comfortable British in Philadelphia, far enough to be safe from a surprise attack, its high ground a natural fortress. But strategy does not fill a man's belly or warm his bones. Picture the march. 12,000 men, strung out for miles. These are not soldiers in the grand European tradition, with polished buttons and powdered wigs. These are farmers, shoemakers, and runaway apprentices. They are husbands and fathers, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollow with exhaustion. They leave a trail in the snow not of grandeur, but of blood from their torn, bare feet. Some have wrapped their legs in rags, others in raw animal hides. As they walk, a strange, grim joke passes through the ranks: if you want to find the road to Valley Forge, just follow the bloody footprints in the snow. They arrive on December 19th. And the land greets them with a silence that is somehow more terrifying than cannon fire. A bitter wind cuts through their tattered hunting shirts. There are no barracks, no warm houses, no stockpiles of food. There is only the land, waiting to be conquered all over again. Their first task is not to fight the British. It is to build a city. A city of wood and mud and desperate hope. Imagine the scene: thousands of men, felling trees with axes that are often dull, their hands so numb they can barely feel the handles. They drag the logs into place, chinking the gaps with mud and straw, a mixture they call cat and clay. They build, row upon row, 12 men to a hut, a space barely 14 by 16 feet. These huts become their world. They are dark, smoky, and crowded. But against the howling wind, they are a fragile fortress. And then the real enemy arrives. Not the Hessians or the Redcoats, but the silent, invisible army of starvation and disease. The food supply, a word that implies an organized system, is a fiction. There is no system. There are only empty promises. For days on end, the men have no meat. Their staple becomes fire cake, a miserable, tasteless lump of flour and water, scorched on a griddle. They eat it, day after day, until their gums swell and their teeth loosen. It is the first whisper of scurvy, the sailor's curse, come to haunt them on this frozen hill. One soldier, a young man named Albigence Waldo, a surgeon from Connecticut, scribbles in his diary, and his words cut through the centuries like that same bitter wind. He writes, "I am sick, discontented, and out of humor. Poor food, hard lodging, cold weather, fatigue, nasty clothes, nasty cookery, smoke and cold, throw all into one glum mass, and I cannot say that I am miserable, for I am not, but I am cross, and everything is wrong with me." You can feel it, can't you? The creeping despair. It is not just the physical misery, it is the abandonment. They know that just 20 miles away, in Philadelphia, the British are warm. They know that Congress, the very body they are fighting for, has fled to the safety of York, and seems to have forgotten them entirely. They know that the farmers nearby would rather sell their goods to the British for shining gold than to the Continentals for worthless, depreciating paper money. Desertion becomes a plague in itself. Men simply walk away into the white oblivion, willing to risk being shot as a deserter, or hanged by the British, rather than endure one more night in that frozen hell. Others, their spirits completely crushed, lie down in the snow and simply refuse to get up. They surrender to the cold, to the final, silent enemy. The army is dying. Not in glorious battle, but melting away, a man at a time, into the frozen ground. By February, of the 12,000 who marched in, nearly 2,000 are dead. They lie in unmarked graves, their sacrifice anonymous, their stories untold. The living are a ragged skeleton of an army, their morale shattered. A conspiracy is even whispered in the smoky huts and around the dying campfires, a plot to remove Washington himself, a man seen by some in Congress as too cautious, too defensive. It is called the Conway Cabal, a shadowy scheme that threatens to unravel the very command of the revolution. This, my friends, is the mystery of Valley Forge. How does an army in its death throes, an army that is starving, naked, and abandoned, emerge as a fighting force that will change the world? The answer lies not in one event, but in a convergence of forces, seen and unseen. It arrives in the shape of two men. Two very different men. The first is a plump, jovial, and fiercely determined Quaker from Philadelphia. His name is Nathanael Greene. Washington, in a masterstroke of leadership, appoints him as the new quartermaster general. Greene is not a miracle worker, but he is an organizer. He steps into the chaos of the supply system, bullies, cajoles, and bargains. He sends out foraging parties, not to beg, but to take what the army needs, issuing receipts that a future nation would hopefully honor. Slowly, impossibly, wagons begin to roll into Valley Forge. They carry not just flour and salt pork, but the most precious cargo of all, hope. But supplies alone cannot turn a collection of starving men into soldiers. For that, a second man arrives, seemingly out of the frozen woods themselves. He is a German, a professional soldier of fortune named Baron Friedrich Wilhelm Augustus Heinrich Ferdinand von Steuben. He arrives at the camp in February, a stout man in a magnificent fur cloak, speaking almost no English. He claims to be a lieutenant general in the service of the Prussian king, though the truth is far more modest. But it doesn't matter. What he brings is not his resume, but his genius. Von Steuben looks at the American soldiers and does not see the rabble that others see. He sees raw material. He picks a squad of 100 men, the most likely-looking fellows he can find. They become his model company. He cannot tell them in English how to handle a bayonet, so he swears at them in German and French. He has a young American officer translate his fury into profane, colorful English. The men love it. They love this fierce, funny foreigner who treats them like real soldiers. He teaches them a new, simplified drill. He teaches them to march in formation, to wheel, to charge with the bayonet. He doesn't just drill them on the parade ground, he has them dig. He introduces a system of latrines, all facing downhill, away from the huts and the water supply. He brings hygiene, and with it, the first real blow against the silent army of disease. Slowly, incredibly, a transformation takes place. You can see it in the way a man holds his musket. You can see it in the way a squad moves as one. A new spirit is being forged in that frozen crucible. It is the spirit of pride, of belonging, of becoming something more than you were. And there is another force at work. A force just as powerful as von Steuben's drill, or Greene supplies. It comes from one man. Washington. Every day, when the weather permits, he rides through the camp on his white horse. He is a towering, imposing figure, yet his face is etched with the same suffering as his men. He goes from hut to hut, asking after the sick, speaking to the sentries. He shares their misery. He writes letter after desperate letter to Congress, not for himself, but for them. His fury at their neglect is a righteous fire that his men feel, even if they never read the words. He is the still point in the turning world of their despair. He will not give up. And because he will not give up, they cannot either. There is a story, perhaps legend, but one that speaks a deeper truth. It is said that during the darkest days, Washington was seen walking alone into a grove of trees near the camp. A local farmer, a Quaker named Isaac Potts, happened upon him. He expected to find the general in prayer. But instead, he saw Washington on his knees in the snow, his cheeks wet with tears, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The farmer watched the commander-in-chief of the American armies pour out his heart, his fears, his doubts, to his God. The sight of the man's profound anguish, and his profound faith, moved the Quaker so deeply that he went home and told his wife, "Our cause is lost no more." Whether the story is fact or fable is immaterial. It captures the mystery of that winter. The mystery of human endurance pushed to its absolute limit and not breaking. The mystery of leadership that suffers alongside the lead. The mystery of a divine spark, call it providence, call it the human spirit, that refuses to be extinguished. Spring comes slowly to Valley Forge. The snow melts, revealing the muddy, scarred ground, and the simple wooden crosses that mark the graves of the 2,000 who did not make it. But as the ice breaks on the Schuylkill, another sound begins to echo across the plateau. It is the steady tramp of marching feet. The sharp command of shoulder, arms. The thunder of a brigade wheeling in perfect unison. On May 6, 1778, the news arrives that changes everything. France, convinced by the American stand at Saratoga and their stubborn survival at Valley Forge, has signed a treaty of alliance. The mightiest military power in Europe is now on their side. Washington orders a celebration. The army is drawn up on the Grand Parade. Chaplains give thanks. And then, a feu de joie, a fire of joy, ripples down the line. Regiment after regiment fires their muskets into the air, a rolling thunder of celebration that shakes the very leaves on the trees. The men cheer. They throw their hats in the air. The sound that fills the valley is not the cry of starving men. It is the roar of an army. An army reborn. When they march out of Valley Forge in June of 1778, they are not the same men who limped in 6 months earlier. They march with a new discipline, a new pride. They march in step. They carry their bayonets high. They are heading for Monmouth Courthouse in New Jersey, where they will meet the British Army, now evacuating Philadelphia, on a blistering hot day. And at a crucial moment in that battle, when an American general orders a retreat, Washington himself rides onto the field. He rallies the troops, and then he turns to his new, disciplined army. He gives the order for von Steuben's men to stand firm, to hold their ground, to meet the British counterattack head-on. And they do. For the first time, an American army fights the British regulars to a standstill on an open field. They trade volley for volley, and then, in a moment of pure, distilled Valley Forge, they fix bayonets and charge. The British, who had mocked the rebels as cowards, fall back. The battle is a tactical draw, but it is a moral victory of staggering proportions. The Continental Army had come of age. So, my friends, when you think of Valley Forge, do not think only of the suffering. Think of the miracle. Think of an army that died and was resurrected. Think of a leader whose faith never wavered. Think of a people who, in their darkest hour, discovered a strength they did not know they possessed. The winter at Valley Forge was a mystery. The mystery of how an idea, the idea of liberty, could become so real, so powerful, that it was worth freezing for, starving for, and dying for. And it is that mystery, born in the snow and blood of that Pennsylvania wilderness, that we still honor today. Friends, if you are interested in the true history of the United States without embellishment, subscribe to the Empire of Freedom channel. Click on the bell so you don't miss anything.